Brian Herzog.
The broadcasting for this television program has been a service of Metro 21. Another Herzog Entertainment production.
BRB Network TV with Brian Herzog.
Welcome to the BRB Network. I'm Brian Herzog. Our very first episode of Let's Talk About It, the TV show with your host, Bobbie Clark. Go ahead, Bobbie.
Thank you, Brian, and welcome to Let's Talk About It. I have with me today two guests, and we're going to be talking about the power of the vocabulary. Now, this is our first show, and so we thank you for tuning in, and we ask that you tune in on a regular basis because we will have interesting topics that we think that will keep your interest, and hopefully you'll tell other people about it. Now, my guests today are Craig Gehring, who made a perfect score on the ACT and the SAT. And also we have Aaron Ardoin, who made a perfect score on the paraprofessional assessment. So we're going to talk with the both of them today about what made it possible for them to make perfect scores on these exams. And so we'll start with you, Craig. First of all, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on the show, Bobbie.
You're quite welcome. Now tell me, Craig, what did it take? What did you do that made it possible for you to make a perfect score on not just the ACT, which was phenomenal enough, but to make a perfect score on both the ACT and the SAT?
Well, when I was in high school, I came across this book called Basic Study Manual by L. Ron Hubbard.
Okay.
And it details a technology of how to study. It's called study technology. Pretty simple. And it describes how important vocabulary is to an understanding and a mastery of your education. And so I took that piece of information and applied it to the ACT and SAT and built up my vocabulary to the point where I could tackle those tests. The little secret about a standardized test, whether it's the ACT, SAT, LEAP test, you name it, is that it's really a vocabulary test.
Well, Craig, I'll tell you, I remember taking that course with the Basic Study Manual, and I remember asking the classroom monitor, where's this book been? If I'd had this book when I was in college, I would have been a straight A student. The power of really appreciating that vocabulary and clearing all of those words really makes a big difference. And I am so glad, and we're going to talk some more about your big feat, because that's what I think it is, to make a perfect score on two of the most important exams for entering college. And so I'd like to bring in Aaron Ardoin. And Aaron, you made a perfect score on the paraprofessional assessment.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I hear about folks all the time talking about, doing well and scoring high on the ACT and the paraprofessional, but to make a perfect score, that puts you in a whole another category, doesn't it? So how did you manage that?
Well, I agree with what Craig was saying about word recognition and, knowing the definition of the words that you're reading. It makes a big difference. Context clues, which was something that I, was taught in middle school, reading a sentence and pulling out the definition of that sentence from the other words. And I think that was one of the, factors that helped me succeed on the test.
Okay, very good. So tell me, what are efficient ways for one to improve their vocabulary? Craig?
Well, the first thing is that if you're going to take a child or a student and help them improve their vocabulary, you need for them to be able to use a dictionary.
Well, that's true.
The dictionary is the master word book. And if you were to do a survey, most kids don't know how to use a dictionary. The dictionary is the thing that you try to avoid in school. I think that's the definition of dictionary they have, is that one book that you never open. But they've got to be able to master that, which is why it's so great that Applied Literacy and Learning has a course called How to Use a Dictionary that teach students how to learn that. Once a kid can use a dictionary, then the whole road's open to him. He can master any amount of vocabulary once he's able to do that.
Okay. So tell me, for the both of you, what kinds of test-taking skills does one need? You're saying that basically the vocabulary is the most important thing that one needs to do well on tests. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I agree. I'd also like to add that knowing the root words and the derivatives of a word, knowing, if you add un to or dis to a word, that means the opposite of the word. Adding ed or ing to the end of words changes, the conjugation. I think that's very important in knowing how to change a word from a noun to a verb, an adjective, and things like that. I definitely agree.
Okay, that's very interesting because so much of the vocabulary is knowing the prefix and the suffix and knowing that root word, and so that when you're looking at or you're on an exam, that you're really able to break down that word, and because you only have 4 choices on the standardized tests, right?
That's right.
So if you really appreciate what the definition of the word is, then you're better able to, what I call, go through and start to delete those that don't fit at all. Is that one of the things that the two of you do when you were taking the standardized tests?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The process of elimination.
That process of elimination, which is so very important.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Well, also, our children today start taking aptitude tests very, very early. Now, they're not aware that they're called aptitude tests. When our children are looking, they're saying, I have to take the I leap. I have to take the leap. And so they're very focused, and many of them get very nervous when it's time to start to prepare for these exams. So are you suggesting to me that if their vocabularies were stronger, that they would do better on the exam?
Absolutely.
Okay.
One thing is that it's not just vocabulary in English. There's a vocabulary of grammar. There's a vocabulary of math. Those tests are testing understanding. So if the student doesn't understand what he's being asked, and he doesn't understand the passages that he's reading, because a lot of the words may as well be French to him, or some foreign language, there's no way he's going to perform at that test.
All right.
And I would agree that a lot of these I leap and leap, as you mentioned, there's a written composition part as well. The kids are given a topic and they have to write several paragraphs on that topic. And I think that using correct grammar in every day would make it easier for that student to go ahead and compose a good essay at the end of the year.
Okay, so now we're looking at our children who are taking the I leap, and as you know, many of our children, especially in the inner city, are not doing well as far as the test-taking skills. What could we do to help them? What could parents do to help their children at home? Do we need to just totally wait for what happens at the school? Are there things we could do ourselves to make it easier for our children to do well on the leap and the I leap?
That's a really good question. I think that's a question that the parents everywhere are asking. It's like,
absolutely.
What can I do? That's what you're asking. What can I do to help my child be effective? And you don't have a lot of time. The teacher has a lot more face time with your kid educationally than you do. The most important fact that I've found in tutoring students and working with students is this child reading at grade level? Is this child reading above grade level?
Yes.
Is this child able to read a word problem, a mathematics word problem, and understand what it says? These are the important things. If a parent were to help their child with reading and with understanding reading and understanding these words, and spent more time on that than homework, the parent would actually find that their time spent gave them a lot more result.
So you're suggesting that where the child's weakness is usually is not understanding the definitions of the words.
Absolutely.
That's powerful. That is absolutely powerful. Would you like to add anything to that, Aaron? Because I know you tutored all last semester, and I got great compliments on the quality of your work. And I would like for you to tell me, what were some of the things that you did when you were tutoring? Well, before you answer that, I think we need to go to a break, and so we'll do that.
Okay, that was Bobbie Clark in studio with some amazing guests with regard to a lot of testing for your kids right here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Stay tuned, because they're going to be still in studio with Bobbie Clark with amazing information that you can know that could benefit your kids when we come back.
Sponsored by Super Cool Fashions Menswear. Sponsored by Independent Care Services Incorporated. Sponsored by Fall in Love with Fashions That Fit Bougie Fine Women's Apparel.
The broadcasting for this television program has been a service of Metro 21. Another Herzog Entertainment production.
Sponsored by Agnes Andrews, Allstate Insurance.
Where fabulous is affordable, Avage Choutique.
Sponsored by
Beautiful Black Magazine. Sponsored by, whether it's commercial or residential, Lacey Bayhath and Associates.